Can everyone?
Okay, ask the question. Mute yours. Okay, try again.
Julia, can you hear me? Can you give me a thumbs up? Very good, thank you. Okay, so I'd like to open up our budget hearing for fiscal year 2025. The committees of Community Board 8 met and came up with a list of their capital and expense budget priorities and submitted them at the end of April to the office in the district manager and the outgoing board chair and myself took a look at them. We discussed them with the executive committee. We had another review of them in September, and then again last week at exec. So I just want to tell you a little bit about the process according to the city charter. Under the charter, community boards are given a broad range of responsibilities. I'm sorry, I'm David Kelman, and I chair the budget committee for Community Board 8. So under the city charter, community boards are given a broad range of responsibilities for advising the city about local budget needs and priorities. The charter mandates that the community boards consult with agencies on the capital and expense budget needs of the district, hold public hearings, prepare capital and expense budget priorities for the next fiscal year. This one would be FY25, and comment on the funding choices presented in the preliminary budget. The city's budgets. The budget year begins July 1st, ends on the following June 30th of 2025. The total budget consists of three components. First comes the revenue budget, which is the city's best estimate of how much money will be available during the fiscal year to support operating expenditures and capital improvement projects. These include all tax and non-tax funds expected to be received during the fiscal year. The expense budget covers all of the city's day-to-day operations, such as salaries and supplies, as well as debt service. It is supported by city taxes, fees, and other local revenue, as well as state and federal aid. On the other hand, the capital budget covers the cost of the city's long-term construction program, purchases of land and large equipment, reconstruction of streets, sewers, parks, and buildings are examples of capital projects. The capital budget items are financed by the sale, typically are financed by the sale of municipal bonds, as well as by state and federal grants. And in this process, there's a curious element. The city defines a capital item as anything that's going to cost more than $35,000, which I always found a little curious because I don't think you can buy a van to shuttle the staff around for less than $35,000. That's a different matter. So the purpose tonight is to, given that we have published the preliminary priorities for capital and expense budgets for the district, this is an opportunity for the community to come in and comment on the individual priorities. However, this is not the time to talk about something extraneous. You know, I'd like to see better trash pickup or whatever. That's for discussion during the meetings within the community board of the individual committees. So at this point, I want to open up the floor to members of the community who would like to make comments about the budget priorities. And that could be Connor and Nicola or Brett, or you're welcome. Typically, you have 3 minutes at a time. I think we can do 4 or 5 if you wish. But this is your opportunity to make comments on our budget priorities. Yes. Is there any, okay, it looks like the only hand I see so far is Jody Colon. Jody, you have 3 minutes to make comments on specific budget priorities.
Thank you. And actually, public hearings, you can comment on anything, they allow that, but I will stick to money things. I'd like to advocate for the Bruckner box that is in the expense budget for Henry Hudson Park. We've been going back and forth for almost 2 years now about whether DEP should fix it or Parks should fix it. Parks needs to open the street. The Friends of Spuyten Duyvil has now fully assumed responsibility for stewardship of both sides of the park. And without access to water in that location, we are hauling it in 1-gallon jugs a quarter of a mile to maintain plantings that the Parks Department put in. So I would just like to keep that on the list. I think it's number 15. And I also just want to advocate with all the 15% budget cuts coming forward, anything that we can do to get additional funding to the Parks Department. They can barely maintain the cleanliness of parks with the cuts they've already suffered. 15% more is going to devastate their ability to care for it. And volunteers just can't assume that responsibility. So that's my minute and a half. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Jody. Any other hands up on Zoom? Anyone in the audience want to comment on capital or expense budget priorities for fiscal year 2025?
I'll take that down. Good evening, everybody. I'm Dr. Quinsack. Sorry, everybody. Good evening, everybody. I'm Dr. Quinsack.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay. I work for State Senator Robert Jackson. I know you guys are asking for requests to the city for capital budget money. The state senator has a limited allocation of capital funding available in its budget for the next capital budget. So if you have a project that is deemed capital by the city over $35,000 and is in Senator Jackson district, you can send an email to our office email, which is jackson@nysenate.gov, and apply there. Please have any quotes, bids that you have received from any city or state agencies to apply. Obviously, we can't make promises, but we try to be fair with the allocations across the district. But if you don't apply, you don't have a chance. Again, that email is jackson@nysenate.gov. And please submit it by the end of the year. Thank you.
Don't turn it off. Like mercury vapor lamps, turn it off forever to start them up again. There's a Henrietta Gold, I guess, with their hand up. Did you want to make a comment about the budget priorities list?
No, actually, I have a comment to make that pertains to the previous meeting that was held by the Cultural Committee, but they did not have an opportunity for public comment.
That's not part of the agenda of the public hearing. You may be able, time allowing, you may be able to speak before the board meeting, which starts at 7 p.m. Thank you. Anyone else? They were distributed with the notice of the hearing for tonight. Oh, it's fine. Come back up. Well, actually, we will go through that during my report, during the report. So, any other questions or, I'm sorry, comments from the community about our budget priorities for fiscal year 2025. Going once. Going twice. 3 times. Do I hear a motion to close the budget hearing? Mary Ellen, thank you. Second, yep. Thank you very much.
So we. Time to spare, do you want to start now or? Okay, all right, so we have, we can't start the board meeting until 7. So you got 15 minutes to use the restroom, which is the first or second door on the left. And Rosemary, did you find out where the water fountain was?
Go out, make a right, go down a flight of
Downstairs.
stairs, go through 2 sets of doors, and you can see it.
And leave a gingerbread trail too. I always do. Huh? I know, I'll miss you too. Sergio, you coming? Sergio coming? I may elbow Pablo. No, it's at 9. Can you see everybody? Good. Okay, and then I will.
Turn it off, the meeting's over. The meeting's over.
Right. Okay.
That's new. There should be off. Meeting's over.
Move over.
Thank you, Pablo. Okay, thank you everybody for being patient. My name is Julie Reyes, Chair of Community Board 8. It is 7:09 p.m. and we will start the meeting. I'd just like to start off by advising the board members who to attend remotely due to extraordinary circumstances are Kelly Buford, Julia Gomez, Rabbi Bob Kaplan, and Bob Fannuzzi. The horrific terrorist acts this weekend have and regretfully continue to result in many Israeli and Palestinian lives lost or experiencing the worst anyone should have to live through. I asked Rabbi Kaplan to say a few words in the beginning. He's not on yet. Hopefully he'll be able to log on. So in the meantime, I'd just like to take a moment of silence in honor of the victims and their loved ones. If you believe in the power of prayer, now is the time. Thank you, everybody. Okay, I'm just going to go a little bit out of order, and I'm going to have Assemblyman Jeffrey Dimowitz speak. It's very late where he's at, so Senator.
Okay. Hello, everybody.
Gave you another title. Yeah,
I don't really know how to change where it says Jeffrey's iPad, so I'm not changing it. And I'm also, don't mind the angle that I'm at. That's, I don't know how to make it any better. Thank you for letting me say a few words. I am pretty far away right now. And it's actually 2 o'clock, no, 1 o'clock in the morning. I just wanted to say a few words on a couple of topics, and I can't even think of what else there is to say on what happened in Israel, except that our community, I am so proud to live in a community where people can come together on such short notice in the hundreds and hundreds. I'm sure some of you were at the prayer vigil this past Sunday, and what happened, I think we all know, has been the worst, literally the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. And I remember getting a call Saturday morning from Chuck Merdler, who was in Jerusalem at the time. I can only imagine what people were going through, but I have to say, I'm not that forgiving a person, but I have to say that the reaction by some groups in our country was just shocking. I mean, if you look on Twitter, some of the student organizations at some of our universities, the rally that DSA, New York City, Democratic Socialists of America, participated in on Sunday, where people were actually celebrating the fact that over 1,000 people were slaughtered, including babies who were apparent, according to the reports, beheaded. I don't think any of us have ever seen anything like this in our lives. But this past weekend was Jewish holidays, Shemini Atzeres and Simchas Torah, and most people who observe those holidays won't use their telephones or emails. And yet by Sunday, hundreds and hundreds of people from our community came out just to be together. And the prayers were led by a number of the rabbis from our community. And many of my colleagues were there. And I was there along with Congressman Richie Torres, Councilman Eric Dinowitz, Borough President Vanessa Gibson, Bronx District Attorney Darcel Clark, and even some of my colleagues from other districts, such as Assembly members Yudelka Tapia and George Alvarez, came out to show their support and solidarity with all of us. And if nothing else, that at least makes me feel good. But this story has a long way to go, and I think that there's going to be some very tough times ahead. But let me just switch and mention a couple of other things. There were competing rallies a couple of weeks ago in Riverdale regarding a possible migrant residence on 238th and Waldo Avenue. It's very disappointing to know that we don't know what's going to happen with that building. It's a former Manhattan College dorm. It was a dorm for over 50 years, was built as an apartment building. I've said all along that I believe that building should be used for permanent affordable housing. Unfortunately, at these rallies, people from outside our community, and people are allowed to come in from outside our community, but people were brought in to, and were, it's just divisive when you have a Curtis Sliwa, and you've heard some of the horrible language he's used at some of these other rallies regarding the migrants, why he was brought there, which basically turned this into a partisan event. And then people on the other side, well-meaning people, but a lot of them came in, they were organized by a group called Jews for Racial and Economic Justice. And they're one of the groups that, at least initially, was almost excusing what happened in Israel. There's no excuse for what happened in Israel. There's no way to defend it. And the only decent thing people can do is to condemn Hamas. But in any case, some of these organizations have done a tremendous disservice to our community. I hope the issue of 238th and Waldo is settled in an appropriate way, but that remains to be seen. I just wanted to mention that my office, along with my colleagues, Councilman Dinowitz, Congressman Torres, Congressman Espaillat, and State Senator Jackson, were sponsoring shred days. People are calling us all the time about getting the shredding machine back. So we're doing it Sunday, October 22nd on Johnson and 235th from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock, and in front of my district office the following Sunday, October 29th, same time. So if you have documents you need to dispose of appropriately, please drop by. And the last thing I'd like to say is that I'm really proud of our community. When we first heard the cricket proposal at the beginning of the summer, again, the Congressman Torres, Councilman Dinowitz, myself, we put out statements raising concerns, opposing it, and we basically spent the whole summer agitating against it. And we were part of, I guess I would call it, a coalition of community groups, of parks advocates, of environmentalists, including the Van Cortlandt Park Alliance, the Bronx Council for Environmental Equality, and other organizations. And in fact, I spoke to the mayor when he came to the parade ground for the ADL's Walk Against Hate. I guess that was in August. And I told him, this thing is not happening. It's not going to get passed. It's going to have to go to the legislature, and I'm not going to let it out because it has to get legislation passed, which wouldn't pass without my support, and I'm not supporting it. And our other elected officials that I mentioned and these groups really came together. And again, this is another example of our community coming together as one, working as a team, working as a coalition, and we stopped what would have been a horrible proposal that would have caused damage to Van Cortlandt Park. And if you don't believe it, look what happened in Central Park when they allowed an event to take place there after being warned that it shouldn't be done. It was some kind of concert, and there was significant damage done. So I just want to close by saying we live in a great community, and I'm glad we can all work together and get results. So whether it's reacting to a horrible event or just working for the improvement of our community, I'm really very proud of us. And so thank you to everybody on the board and everybody else who's listening. And thank you, Julie, for allowing me to speak at the beginning.
Thank you for staying up and joining us. Be safe.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go back to the agenda, and we're on item number 2, the public gallery. We have a few speakers that signed up. Is there Migdalia Velas? Migdalia? And we'll go on to the next speaker, Sue Ellen Dodal. Oh wait, Migdalia may even be on Zoom. I'm gonna go back to Migdalia. Migdalia, if you're there. And I saw a few hands in Zoom. Can the Zoom people hear? A few hands. Can they hear us?
No, it has to be Migdalia.
No, I'm talking about, I saw a few hands up.
Yeah.
Can they hear us?
I think she's waving her hand, second
See
from bottom.
Migdalia over there? Can you let her speak, public?
I sent her a request. Tell her I sent her a request.
Can you,
Migdalia?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself.
Migdalia, I just have a quick question. Were you able to hear us in the room? Obviously, because you're speaking right now.
I'm sorry, was I able to what?
Hear us. Okay, Migdalia, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening.
Just a reminder, the speakers have 3 minutes.
Sure. Good evening, Chairperson Reyes and members of Community Board 8 and elected officials. My name is Migdalia Velas, and I'm here to talk about the proposed cannabis dispensary at 6677 Broadway. Let me start by saying that I am vehemently opposed to a dispensary at this location. I'm not opposed to the legal sale or legal use of marijuana, but this location does not make sense. I'm baffled as to why anyone would think that a dispensary next door to a soon up and coming homeless shelter for 140 single men is a good idea. We have continuously heard from the board, elected officials, and experts on homeless issues that this population is vulnerable, The men suffer from mental illness and substance abuse, as well as other ailments. And our elected officials deem it prudent to allow a dispensary to sell marijuana next door. No one cares about the residents of North Riverdale. At least that's how it feels right now. Look around at all the for sale signs in the community. This is not a coincidence. There are an unprecedented number of homes for sale in the neighborhood due to the opening of the homeless shelter at Broadway and 262nd Street sometime in 2025. Yet you continue to disparage our neighborhood, sell marijuana across the street from a park where children play. Why not? That sounds great. Next door to vulnerable mentally ill men, again, why not? If I sound angry, it is because I am. I am angry and I'm disappointed with my elected officials. You don't hear me or the members of my community. Why is nothing positive being zoned in North Riverdale? We have assisted living facilities, for instance, the W on the corner of 254th and Broadway. It's a mess. Just this morning, as I was waiting for the bus, at 7:30 in the morning, the police were called to break up a fight. Not a rare occurrence. Along Broadway, within a few blocks, we have a migrant shelter at the Van Cortlandt Motel, a future homeless shelter, and a marijuana dispensary. It seems like the floodgates are open. What can go wrong? Why is North Riverdale not being protected by the people elected to protect it? I cannot accept this. After being a lifelong Democrat and voting in every election since I was eligible to vote, I feel like I have no choice but to change my party affiliation. Maybe Republican leaders will care about my voice and my community, and maybe even my vote. Some think that the residents of North Riverdale are wealthy, white, and entitled. I am none of the above. Instead, I'm an immigrant, middle-class Latina, single mother that through grit and determination, I purchased a home in the area. Additionally, I'm a dedicated public servant that has spent the last 32 years working for the city of New York, serving my city and my community. I implore Community Board 8 and my elected officials to vote against the dispensary proposed at Broadway and 262nd. Please help us protect our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Migdalia. Our next speaker, Sue Ellen Dondell. She in the Zoom?
Yes. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great.
3 minutes, go right ahead.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Sue Ellen Dodell, and I've lived in North Riverdale for close to 40 years. I'm also a retired New York City employee. I was employed by the city as an attorney for 44 years. I'm here tonight to ask for your support for City Council Bill Intro 1099. The bill adds just 2 sentences to the city's administrative code. The first sentence provides that the city must offer at least one Medigap plan to its retirees, and the second sentence provides that nothing in the legislation will interfere with the city union's ability to collectively bargain for their employee members. For more than 50 years, city retirees have been promised traditional Medicare along with a supplemental plan. And now the city wants to take that away and put us into an inferior Medicare Advantage plan. The mayor is doing this because of a Ponzi scheme. In 2014, the Municipal Labor Committee, a group of the city's largest labor unions, took money from the city's Health Stabilization Fund and used it to pay for teacher raises. They've never paid it back. And in order to do so now, the mayor and the unions have tried to take away health care from vulnerable retirees, including 9/11 survivors. If we are forced into the so-called Medicare Advantage plan, we will lose access to our doctors, hospitals, and treatments. This literally is a matter of life and death. New York City retirees have been fighting for 2 years in the courts to keep our earned Medicare benefits from being stripped away, and all 3 cases we've filed have been decided in our favor. But litigation is expensive, and retirees live on fixed incomes. We've been financing our lawsuits ourselves with small contributions, and the city keeps appealing our wins in court. Some folks are telling us to wait until the lawsuits conclude, but lawsuits can drag on for years. That is why we need Intro 1099 to protect us right now. Community board members, are you going to stand idly by and refuse to help your fellow residents of Community Board 8 who are hurting and afraid when we lose access to our doctors while battling serious diseases? We need your help to ensure that traditional Medicare remains in place. If New York City moves ahead with this, other states and cities across the country will follow and hasten the end of Medicare, one of the greatest healthcare programs in the country. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. And again, I ask that you support Intro 1099.
Thank you, Sue Ellen. Our next speaker, Jean Connell.
Yes. Jean Connell. Are they there? No? Connell, Connell, Jean Connell, G-E-N.
Our next speaker, Valerie Porter. Valerie, if you can unmute yourself, and Jean, if you're there, you can unmute yourself also.
Thank you very much. So this is Valerie Porter, and these comments are made respectfully. I am incensed about the migrant shelter on 238th and Waldo, and I was part of the protest. First, before I say that, I love Riverdale. When I was young and I lived in Co-op City and we couldn't afford, to do better because my family was lower middle class, I always wanted to live in Riverdale. And then 27 years ago, I was able to move here. I'm not that happy right now. It's changed a lot, but what's even going to be worse is a migrant shelter at that location. Also, the irony of the Stag Group first making us miserable with loud construction noise for 2 years, constructing a 16-story building with, relatively high rents, and then having them buy the building from Manhattan College for $18 million, and then selling it to the city for migrant use 1 block away from the expensive building. That is unconscionable for all of us, but people who are moving into that brand new, spanking new building should be told that you're going to have migrants a block away. And also, if you look at the Roosevelt Hotel at 45th and Madison, and all the e-bikes that are there with the migrants, it's bad enough in this neighborhood with the people on e-bikes doing deliveries now. With migrants here, and the only work they'll be able to get probably is food delivery, they're going to be zipping around all over the place and God knows what else during the day with no jobs. I am very upset about this. I've contacted everybody. Gillibrand, no answer. I contacted Assemblyman Dinowitz, Councilman Dinowitz. No one could tell me anything other than actually Assemblyman Dinowitz had somebody to call me back and say, calm down, this is not a done deal. Aside from that, Richie Torres's people told me we have to agree to disagree. I'm not happy with that. I paid taxes and I worked for the city for 43 years. I just retired. This is wrong. I never got an iPad from the city or anybody. I never got a scooter. I never got a cell phone. Everything I did on my own. So I'm in a sense, and as the previous speaker said, I am thinking of not voting as a lifelong Democrat. I'm sorry to say, changing my votes towards other people who have a real concern in mind. Anyway, I know there's a time constraint, but I want to thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Valerie. Our next speaker, Christopher Steffens.
Good evening. Thank you, Community Board and neighbors. My name is Chris Steffens. I'm a member of the Board of Directors of 3875 Owners Corporation. Well, we're a 105-unit cooperative apartment building between Waldo Avenue and Dash Place. Adjacent to our building entrance on Waldo is an unbuilt mapped street. It's a portion of West 242nd Street that until recently we shared with the owner of a single-family detached home. That property has been developed into a 29-unit apartment building with a 15,000 square foot community facility to be accessed from the unbuilt mapped 242nd Street. For decades, our historic use of our half of the unbuilt street has been as landscape garden and as a loading zone for share owners and emergency repairs. This morning, a significant portion of the unbuilt mapped 242nd Street was surfaced with asphalt by a contractor. This work was undertaken without notice to our property from the developer or the DOT and without consideration of the potential community impacts. Further development of the unbuilt 242nd Street would enable additional vehicle traffic in an already difficult three-way intersection that's Waldo and Manhattan College Parkway. Vehicle parking and student drop-off at this community facility would be a hazard to our residents entering our building and to pedestrians nearby in Bruss Park. Stormwater runoff down a steep portion of that unbuilt street will be further exacerbated by new pavement. So we ask that the community board help facilitate better communication between stakeholders regarding the future of this unbuilt map street and to prioritize non-vehicular use. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Christopher. Just a last call for Jean Connell. I know there's a Jim Connolly.
Nothing? There's a Gene, but not a Gene. If Gene could rename himself to his full name, so we're sure it's you, please.
And in the meantime, in regards to the gallery session, is there anyone here from the Bronx Borough President's Office? Excuse me, is there anyone here from the Bronx Borough President's Office? Okay, Mariella, great. Okay, the next is the 50th precinct. We have Special Ops Lieutenant Baez.
Why don't you step up to the stand?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Lieutenant Baez. I'm the Special Operations Lieutenant at the 50th Precinct. I'm here on behalf of the command. Captain Ryan, Captain Pierce wasn't able to make it at other engagements. I'm going to read off our crimes for the year to date. These are crimes that we tally, the most serious felony crimes. I'll go through them, where we're making headway and where we are, still attacking from all different directions. So with murders for year 2023 compared to 2022, we're at 4 murders compared to 2 for 2022. I will say that those murders do have an assailant arrested, so all those murders are close to an arrest. As far as rate goes, we're at 8 rapes for 2023, and compare that to 15 rapes, that's a decrease of 46%. For robberies, we are at 120 robberies compared to 147. That's a decrease of 18%. For felony assaults, which includes shootings, anything with an object used, we're down 3%, 164 versus 169. Our burglaries are up slightly. That's when the assailant breaks into a home or a commercial vehicle, so to speak. That's up 114 versus 104, a 9% increase, or 10 burglaries. Grand larcenies are down. That includes anything from credit card thefts, vehicles broken into, or property removed over $1,000. That's down slightly, 2.3%. And our biggest issue in the 5-0, as I'm sure most community members are aware, is the grand larceny autos. We're up 31%, 269 versus 205. I'll take any questions that anyone may have at this point. I do have to run to a couple operations that have going on.
Just one, you said you know who the 4 murderers are, or were they known to the victims?
They're closed with arrest. Some of those investigations are still pending, and the prosecutions are still pending. So I won't get into whether or not they are going to the victim or, you know, if they're specific, but they are close to arrest at this point, which is just, you know, it's important to us to solve every type of crime like that. Yes.
Show us that public safety or more complicated, but we need more action on time. Yeah, we could be doing that one, because they come down to the sidewalk and knock it down. I work at Asia, and we have a register. They're gonna get hit by it, so they're just flying all over. They don't care, they'll go to the fire station. It's very dangerous.
I agree. This is an issue that was brought up at the last public safety meeting at the 5-0. The captain and myself attended a meeting with Assemblyman Dinowitz. He assured us that we did have money put aside to get more cameras at different locations to tackle this type of issue. But just to put this number into perspective, in the last month alone, we've confiscated over 20 mopeds and scooters. Some of those have been stolen. You know, that's the people that we apprehend. You can imagine that a lot of these guys committing these types of crimes are fleeing the scene. Again, we try to be safe about who we apprehend and who we go after, but we're almost averaging 1 a day as far as apprehension goes. Just last night, my NCO Sector Charlie, which is the sector that covers Riverdale, they apprehended a stolen vehicle right at the border of Yonkers. So again, as the technology becomes available to us, whether it's cameras, we have license plate readers on our vehicles now where we can track pretty much the license plates and follow these vehicles. We're making the apprehensions as they come along. What's that? Yeah, like any violation that the officers observe and they're able to catch these guys safely, we remove the scooters, we write the violations, the summonses, and then we proceed from there. So every time we engage them and we make an apprehension, you know, we follow through wholeheartedly with our efforts.
I was a bystander yesterday. A friend of mine had an incident in North Riverdale. Nothing serious, folks. Wasn't a stabbing, a shooting, nothing. But I have to tell you, so often the police department doesn't get a good job. I can tell you by being inside, the way my friend and the female was treated at the 5-0 and then told to go home and wait for a patrol car was just unbelievable. I figured my whole afternoon was going to get killed here. The whole car came within 40 minutes, and 2 officers, and I purposely wrote their names down. Perry and Thompson executed what I think it says on the side of vehicles: CPR, courtesy, professionalism, and respect. I can't tell you. I just wanted to say it was great to witness that. My afternoon did get killed, and they solved the situation. Just a landlord tenant dispute. That's all it was. I might bring this up at public safety too. Just think, maybe they'll show up.
We appreciate that. Also Perry and Thompson are one of our best patrol officers, that are out there. Sure they partake and they're explaining these same things to our up and coming officers. So we do thank them. We appreciate it. Anybody have any other questions?
Julia has a question.
Yes.
Can you unmute her, please?
She waiting.
Wait, who has a question?
Julia Gomez.
She's on mute.
Go ahead, Julia, you have a question?
She just.
Does anyone else have a question in the room?
Go to speak.
Julius. Okay, alarm's on. Thank you so much.
No other questions?
Julie, the woman next to her is trying to get on, but I think you need to remind people that.
Okay, thank you, that's it, thank you. Just a friendly reminder to everyone on Zoom, at the board meeting this evening, we're not taking questions or comments from the audience. Feel free to give a call or an email to the board office and we'll be glad to service any questions that you may have. Okay, so we're going to go on to the elected officials. We'll start out with the board's members first. We'll go with Council Member Eric Dinowitz. Eric, if you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Did you say you'd go with the board? Yes, can you hear me?
Well, you're an ex officio, so
Do you?
you have 3 minutes. Nice
Sure,
to
okay,
see
so
you.
I guess you do hear me. Okay. Nice to see you too. First and foremost, I think the thing that's on my mind, and I think the thing that's on many of your minds is Israel. We all woke up Saturday morning in horror. I know maybe some of you were even there. I was texting and calling a number of my friends who are still there. I encourage you to follow me on social media, on Twitter. I've been doing a number of statements on Twitter, but we've had elected officials say wishy-washy things. If you don't follow me on social media, I want to make clear to everyone here that I unequivocally condemn the Hamas brutal attacks and kidnapping and rape and murder of children and grandparents and teenagers against Israel, against citizens, against bystanders. I was disgusted that the DSA held a rally in Times Square at this time, which is a tacit endorsement of that violence. And I've been, during this time, working with my colleagues to make sure that they understand the implications of supporting those rallies, and that every word that they say on social media carries deep weight right now for so many of us. I've also been working with a number of city agencies like the Department of Education to make sure that our teachers and children have the resources. I've been working with my other Jewish and non-Jewish colleagues to make sure this happens. But we in the Jewish Caucus, of which I chair, have certainly been taking the lead, making sure our children feel and are safe and that the teachers have the tools. I've also been in contact with the CUNY chancellor. As we know, CUNY has had a long history, unfortunately, of anti-Semitism I've spoken loudly against. And we've been in communication with CUNY to try to ensure that they have the resources and they are supporting students who are fighting for peace, like we are doing in our community, like the vigil that I attended Sunday night with so many of you, where we were sharing psalms and prayers and songs of peace. We've been in touch with the State Department trying to get more New Yorkers home. I've been on the on and off calls with local NYPD to make sure our schools and Jewish institutions have coverage, and with citywide NYPD. And there's no current threat that they know of now, but that, of course, unfortunately, can change. last December, I led a delegation of council members to Israel on a trip, and one of the last places we went was Kfar Aza, a kibbutz along the Gaza envelope. And you may know that name because it was held hostage recently, and that is a site where they found 40 murdered babies. So this is something that's atrocious and something that my colleagues who went on the trip know all too well about. Just a few other things. You may know that I introduced legislation requiring there to be emergency response centers in the case of fires, so that folks who are victims of fires and don't have access to their permit can go and grab some clothing and need so they can get on with their life for the next day. I met recently with CB8 regarding your budget. As you know, I'm very supportive of the work that you do in your budget hearings, and I'm trying to work closely with them to make sure that what you vote on is aligned with some of the work I'm doing. And I do want to mention one building is Godwin Terrace. We got a number of reports of mismanagement, a number of quality of life issues, which I won't list. But what we did was we worked with an organization called West Bronx Housing, and I, along with them, knocked door to door to make sure tenants knew their right. We organized a Know Your Rights meeting for the tenants, and we are helping them organize a tenants association and make sure that they know that they have rights, the right to live in a safe and healthy environment. If you need any help with your housing, my office is open. There's nothing I won't do, from connecting you with an agency or nonprofit to literally knocking on doors in your building to make sure that you have the right environment to live in. I will leave it there, and I want to wish you all, thank you all on CB8. Thank you. Thanks, Farah. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you. I'm sorry I rushed you, but we're fortunate this evening that we have quite a few
Okay.
elected officials. Sorry to rush you. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Okay, we have, is anyone here from Councilmember Carmen De La Rosa's office?
They were on Zoom. Jamila.
That's a representative? Okay, I'll come back to her in a minute, okay?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Wait, can you give us a few minutes? We're just gonna jump around a bit. Sorry about that. Okay, we're going to go with Senator Gustavo Rivera, who's been here since the beginning, and thank you. You told me you had time, so that's why I figured I'll keep you as long as I could.
No worries.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. First, it is obvious that what is in everybody's mind needs to be acknowledged. This is a new part of the district for me. Obviously, a new part of my own community that I've never represented before. And it is obvious that what is happening all the way in Israel is incredibly impactful to so many folks I represent. So I will first that might be necessary to establish to make sure that children are safe in those. So we're working along. We want to make sure that we are thoughtful about it so that it's actually something that solves powers that we gave to this agency this last budget cycle to make sure that we can not only shut those places down, but make it impossible for them to operate something like $10,000 a day if you're operating illegally, as well as we're trying to impact not only the business owner who is obviously selling illegally, but even impacting the landlord who is allowing that store to be there. So please, please work. Let our office know if you identify some of these locations, and we're working along with the state agency to make sure that we can do the enforcement necessary so that those places that should not be operating do not operate. Last but not least, just again remind you, we have my office remains at 2432 Grand Concourse, 27th Concourse. Just 30 more seconds. But our satellite offices continue. We, my team member, particularly Brent Schneider, who is here, so my community affairs representative. We do office hours across the district, and we do some right here in Riverdale. Remind me again, where we do? Riverdale Senior Services. Second and fourth Wednesday of every month, but you can always call my office. We are available every day. We have immigration and benefit services. We have housing services, as well as tenant supporting unit services. Be in touch with my office if there's things that you think we could be helpful to you with. And with that, I will thank you for your time. I'll remain for a little bit longer, but thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you for coming. Chuck Bertman from Landers.
Senator, one of the things that the legislature can do is both in the public interest and in the interest of people who are unfortunate enough to need the benefits of shelter, is to make a change and provide for a change in the law. In a multiple dwelling, you cannot have 6 people in a room. In a shelter, you can. In a multiple dwelling, can't have the bathroom on the floor. In a shelter, you can. That's because the legislature, not the legislature in which you served years ago, provided an exemption for those kind of facilities. So you have the inhuman condition of maybe having 5 truly homeless people who need care in a room with a schizophrenic, because they do not separate one from another. That is an area of the law that desperately cries out for somebody with guts, and I know you have. To take the law and look at it, they are not entitled to an exemption. All that they do by having that rich election lawyers from Brooklyn who represent 90% of the applicants for home trust.
One thing I would suggest, sir, is that we have a conversation, not during this, because it's obviously a longer one. It is not never involved that I'm as familiar with as you are. But I would certainly want to talk to you about it in more length, if that's possible.
Thank you. Vice Chair Sergio Vice Chair has a question for you as well.
Yes,
With the walkthrough, that's a great idea, but obviously there'll be, well, not obviously, but I'd request it to be one for people who work, like a Monday at 10:45, you know, it's great for our retirees.
This is one of the, so there is, as you folks know, I got redrawn out of my district last year, right? So I just moved about 3 weeks ago. So I have been there's a lot of things that have been kind of pushed back with our schedule because of the move that I had to do. So we're finding any time that we had available to be able to do these things. I should tell you that I'm very open, as I said earlier. If it doesn't work for folks, we are absolutely willing to figure out if there's 2, 3, even if it's 2 or 3 folks. I mean, obviously a bigger group would be better, but we should work. I'll make sure that Brent is in contact with you. And again, if folks are on the Zoom or here on the table, if you want to work with us to kind of figure out a time that, and if it's not, it doesn't have to be that particular part of the district. It could be your block. It could be something you want to show me that I might not have seen before. So we're more than willing to figure out how we can go and spend an hour and a half walking around, so we can point out and say this is an issue here, this is an issue there. So we're more than willing to work with you and anybody else to figure out a time in the next couple of months to do so.
And a very quick second point on the cannabis, it's of concern. The enforcement certainly is of concern for people who want to open legitimate dispensaries, because there's been at the same time decriminalization, it seems, and the legalization for dispensaries, which don't always go together. I was concerned with something you said about, from an economic development standpoint, was the landlords.
Yes.
I mean, not every landlord is this rich, evil person, you know.
I didn't claim that.
There could be situations where you're going in there, it ends up being something, and then now the landlord action is being taken against the landlord, who may or may not be able to afford lawyers to get the person out, or things that should be enforced by other means. So
we're saying what we did during the budget season was we actually enhanced the powers of the agency to give us different tools. So it's not that we're going to use every single one, but there's certain instances in which we find that landlords fully knowing that what is coming into their building is a facility that's not legally allowed to be there, like a cannabis dispensary. And then we're basically saying we have now a tool available to us that we can actually go after the landlord as well. The first instance is identifying the facility, like the front, like the store, identifying it, going into it, finding material that is legally there, and then claiming that material, being able to seize it, confiscate it, and then finding that person who is the proprietor or the operator of that particular building, or that particular business. What we're saying is that we have added tools which include going after landlords as well. It is not an automatic thing, but it is one of the things that is available to us so that we can put pressure any way that we can. Because I voted to legalize cannabis. I want to make sure that the sale actually happens in the places that are licensed, since the goal here was to make sure that we have that first of all, that the people who have access to it are folks who have been impacted by the criminalization that we had before, and also that the revenue that's from it actually goes to fix some of the harm that was caused by that criminalization. None of that can be achieved if we don't actually do it right. So it's a tricky thing, and there's no other state that's tried to do it like we're trying to do it. It's very tricky. But we found that a lot of people started to take advantage and started to just open up everywhere. They are in so many places. And we want to make sure that this places, the places that should be able to sell are the ones that are licensed. And that they're in appropriate places. There is, as a discussion was had earlier by one of the folks who spoke during the open session, it is not appropriate to have them everywhere. So we want to make sure they're in the appropriate place, that they're legally there, and we just want to have as many tools available to us so that we can make sure that the folks who are doing it legally don't continue to do so.
Thank you. Our Public Safety Chairperson, Ed Green, and Economic Chairperson, Nick Fazio behind you. That's a subject that will be on in their committees moving forward, so hopefully you'll see a lot of them. Thank you so much. We're gonna, okay, can you make it, please? Okay, go ahead. Okay, thank you.
Just a very quick reminder, River Spring Health with my 1199 home care.
Yes.
People, everybody else that has credit, we get village, not one. I know that you had gotten the has to pay for the home care workers, so you get on that, get it, but River Spring Health is $1.
We have to follow up on that.
Please follow up on, I had asked it at the meeting.
Thank you for reminding me. Again, in 1 month, very quickly, I looked at 40 places. Finally freaking moved about 3 weeks ago, and now started to look livable, not just a bunch of boxes. So now I'm gonna be able to focus more now that I have that life situation set. But yes, thank you for reminding me.
Thank you. We appreciate you being here. You see how nice we are, so we hope to see you again. Thank you. Okay, the next speaker will be from the Mayor's Office, Community Affairs, Alina Dowd. Alina Dowd, can you please unmute yourself from the Mayor's Office?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. First, I do want to just, send out the prayers and condolences for all of the people that have lost their loved ones. What has happened in the last 2 days has been horrific, and, prayers and just massive prayers continue to go out to all these families that have been negatively impacted by this horrible situation. I do have some information regarding some of the things that the mayor has undertaken. And one of them is that the mayor and the sanitation commissioner have announced the next phase of their war on rats. And this includes all businesses that must put their trash in containers. So I know a lot of Community Board 8 is really good with putting in their complaints, but I do want to ask that if you notice a business is not complying, so please make sure that you first dial your 311 complaints, and if then they haven't been addressed, you're very easily able to email me. I always share my information, even though we don't have a chat here. So if someone wanted to take down my number, it's fine. It's area code 914-446-8393. And I welcome everyone to reach me regarding any complaint in the community that hasn't been addressed. Also, the mayor and Hertz have announced a partnership to create green jobs, provide workforce training, and electrify vehicles. The mayor also announced that he broke a record $6 billion in spending with New York City MWBE firms in the first fiscal year of the administration. And that's a record. And as the numbers of asylum seekers in the city top 60,000, the mayor announced a 30-day notice for adult migrants to intensify the caseworkers to help adult migrant seekers take the next step. Obviously, that's encouraging the movement so that people can get out of whatever circumstance they're in, whether that's in the shelter and moving into more permanent housing, or getting from out of the street into some type of shelter system. The mayor also launched an historical effort to build, in quotations, a little more housing in every neighborhood. So the city of Yes for Housing Opportunities will create an additional 100,000 homes for 250,000 New Yorkers. The mayor also gives New Yorkers the ability to use the city-funded rental assistant vouchers across New York State. So I'm not sure if everyone is familiar, but New Yorkers with City FEPS, it's a housing voucher, will now be able to find permanent affordable housing, not only within New York City, but across the entire New York State. The mayor also made an abortion care available via telehealth to New Yorkers through the NYC Health and Hospitals. And the mayor announced the $15 million in new federal funding to plant and maintain the city trees. I know that we get a lot of complaints about the trees, and I ask that you still please continue to put in your 311 complaint numbers about any trees that may not be healthy or uprooted. And if they, again, haven't been addressed in a certain amount of time, please send me over the complaint number and I'll follow up. Also, the mayor and the HPD commissioner have taken actions to connect New Yorkers to affordable housing more quickly. And they've done that by eliminating the unnecessary credit checks for voucher holders. So the vouchers that I was just referencing, they're not going to be asking, they're trying to stop them from having credit checks, which will then make it a little bit easier to move into apartments. Also, the mayor just concluded a 2-day summit on fentanyl, which is the crisis that we're all aware of. I know there's so much happening, so many things happening, but fentanyl is something that we also know is a huge problem in our city. And the mayor, he got with a whole bunch of local leaders across the country, and they really want to work on figuring out how and what's the next combat for this. And that's about it. Again, you know, today is a very sad day. And my prayers go to everyone that has been impacted by this. But if you need me, I'm always just a call away, and I will be here for the entire meeting if you guys need to ask me any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alina. And I know we want to thank you for being a constant guest at our meetings. We appreciate that. Thank you. Our next speaker is from Congressman Richie Torres' office, Joe McManus. Joe McManus. Gotta wait to unmute yourself, Joe.
Okay, there it is. Good evening, everybody. I know this is the first time that I've been here, and I'd like to say Congressman Torres is definitely in solidarity with the Jewish people and a very strong support of Israel. Since you'd have a chat, I sent my contact information to the district manager, and anybody that has a federal issue and is a constituent, by federal issues, I mean like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, Post Office, Veterans Affairs, we can help you navigate the system. One thing I'd like to mention, Congressman Torres introduced a bill with Congress member Malliotakis. It's HR 5518. It's the Right to Medicare Act. This bill, if passed, would allow each participant in Medicare to select if they want regular Medicare or Medicare Advantage, and so they would not be forced into either one. I also sent the district manager the bill. So if you need to see it, I think the best thing to do is contact her. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go back. We just have about 3 more elected officials, and then we'll be going on to our agenda. It's a little after 8, so I think we're pretty much on track considering we have a lot of guest speakers. And then we're also going to go back after the elected officials. Jean finally appeared on Zoom. Jean, we're going to come to you as soon as we finish with the elected officials. We're going to go back to Councilmember Carmen De La Rosa's rep, and I apologize again, we had to stop, and now we're coming back to you. Okay, is there anyone from Councilmember Sanchez's office?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you, and I will not interrupt you again. So 3
No
minutes.
worries, I completely understand, no worries.
Thank you.
My name is Jamila Sandoval. I'm from Carmen De La Rosa's office, a councilwoman of District 10. I'm her Director of Community Affairs and also scheduler. I'm coming on here to say hello, good evening, introduce myself, and send all my prayers and positive energy towards all the victims that are in Israel at the moment. I just wanted to say that we represent Marble Hill, and that's why I come to Community Board 8. And if anything is needed from our office, so please contact us. We work closely with Tony from the Resident Council Association and other organizations in the area. But because we're like in a little nook right across the street from Manhattan, as we can say, I just wanted to make sure that you guys know that we are available for any assistance in Marble Hill. So I can't put my information, but I would definitely email the office so that you guys can have that. My email and also my work cell. And just wanted to say good evening.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, and thank you for being patient. Okay, is anyone here from Councilmember Sanchez's office? Okay, and lastly, in regards to elected officials, I know we have someone from Senator Jackson's office.
Good evening, everybody. I'm gonna keep it short. I'm gonna just read a portion of what the senator wrote about what happened this weekend. My heartfelt condolences go out to the families who have lost their loved ones due to attacks by Hamas. I unequivocally condemn these acts of violence, as they only led to further loss of innocent lives, both in Israel and Palestine. A call on all of us to remain steadfast in promoting peace and resolutions that respect the rights of all people to live without fear and terror. My thoughts and prayer are with all those suffering during these challenging times. It is imperative that we work toward lasting peace in this region, emphasize empathy, love, and commitment to our shared humanity. That's Senator Jackson's comment that he posted over the weekend in regards to what happened. So our office is available Monday through Friday. You can find us at 5030 Broadway, Suite 701 by appointment preferably. You can find us by email at jackson@nysenate.gov. Our phone number is 212-544-0173. If you have any questions, you can find me here or online via email at quinsac@nysenate.gov. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, in our gallery person, Jean, he was online on Zoom.
I might have left. Jean Canal, is he back on?
Okay, so then we'll go on to the next item, Chair's report, which will be brief. You can take a look at the executive report for the miscellaneous information. I'll just remind the new members and even seasoned members, Farah and I are scheduling a training orientation for the new members and chairs on October 28th. 26th. From 6:30 to 9 p.m. Please RSVP by the 18th of this month. The Van Cortlandt Park Alliance is holding an event this month at Van Cortlandt Park, and the office sent a letter of support along with the 50th precinct, and that will also be brought up in the public safety with the resolution, I believe. I appointed as an interim chairperson for the Housing Committee, Rosemary Jinsey. Thank you again for stepping in. And we will be having elections this evening. And as far as my report, how could I forget? Farah and I met with the Deputy Commissioner of DCAS, the Department of Citywide Administrative Services Office, and Charles Gross, and Assistant Commissioner Hamilton, and it actually looks promising that they are working on but we're working hand in hand with them in finding a location. A few places that were looked at in the past, they're looking back into it. It hasn't been leased. They gave us a few options, and we're going to be looking at places for an office in the future. So it's more positive than it was last month. And that's it for my report. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, the next is the treasurer's report. I'm here.
Okay, I think everyone got a copy of the October Treasurer's report, so I'll just be brief. Table 1 shows the overall budget, 261,432, broken down broadly into personal services, which is our staff payroll, and other than personal services, the funds we use to pay bills and supplies for the office. And as you can see, the update of the salaries paid, and we have 21,773 left in OTPS, which is broken down in table 1.1 and 2, the various spending codes, and you can see the balances for the various categories, so we're paying our bills. One bit of good news we received just a few days ago is that community boards will not be affected by the proposed budget cuts, will not be affected by the budget cuts, so that's good. But anyway, we still have the $10,000 cushion in Object Code 499, which we like to keep as a safety measure. And we really don't anticipate any huge purchases coming up that are imminent. Most of what we buy is the usual office supplies, WP Mason, and things like that. But we will continue to monitor the situation and be as conservative with spending as we can. Table 1.2, there are no budget modifications this month. 1.3, $1,314 in encumbered funds, items that were input into the system but have not yet been paid. And finally, table 1.4 is just an update of our rent and energy detail, which is separately maintained by OMB, who would like to keep it here for our reference. And that is it. Thank you.
District Manager's report.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Everything's been in full swing for this past September. As our chair mentioned, we've been meeting with DCAS to discuss and look at some new office spaces. I have attended, along with our budget chair, the 3 borough-wide budget consultation meetings with our city agencies over the last few weeks, and I will send those responses this week to all of our executive committee. The chair, the budget chair, and I have also met with Councilman Dinowitz, as he mentioned before, to go over our budget priorities and compare them with things that he is funding as well. We are also working on the final details, as Chair Reyes has mentioned, for our new chair orientation, October 26th at Downey's Bar and Grill. I'm excited to hear our own Marty Walthoff make a presentation. And we have invited representatives from the Department of City Planning to give a presentation regarding ULIP process, zoning laws, and anything you might have questions on. I do want to ask that you RSVP, as mentioned, as soon as possible. And we just want to make sure we're prepared and know how many people are coming. And I really encourage all of our 12 new board members and our new chairs to attend. And of course, all the board is invited. And hopefully you can come give your own insights and your experience to our members. I have been very busy interviewing people to fill our community coordinator position. And I was impressed with a few candidates, and hopefully we'll be announcing, we have a new community coordinator very soon. I know that Mayor Adams announced there'll be a hiring freeze for the city, but I just found out, and I'm very happy to report that it does not apply to the community board. So that was a relief. Lastly, I held a district service cabinet meeting last week, and I will send a memo to our executive committee. Thank you to our officers and chair for putting in extra time, as always, and giving your continued support to the office. Thank you.
Sylvia Alexander. Here. Jillian Baez. Here. Constance Barnes Watson. Here. Abubakar Berry. Bob Bender. Carol Blake. Here. Kelly Buford is Christopher Calhoun. Here. Sebastian Chilapoli. Here. Lee Chong. Present. Ingrid De Leon. Margaret Della present. Margaret Donato. No. Nicholas Fazio. Stephen Fruit. David Gellman.
Present.
Miriam Gibbs. Rosemary Ginty. Here. Dr. Gomez is EC. Edward Green.
Present.
Emily Houseman. Rashida Hilliard. Here. Robert Chakowski. Barbara Kale. Here. Scott Crumpinger.
Present.
Josh Land.
Here.
Elaine Lobos. Here. Rita Proctor-Lowe.
Here.
Oscar D. Martinez. Charles Murdler.
Here.
Theodore Morris. Omar Murray. Joy Campbell Privateer. I'm sorry. Julie Reyes. Daniel Rowan. Don't give me 2 pages. Georgia Santiago. Ramdat Singh. Jessica Sosa. Here. Laura Spalter. Deborah Travis. Sergio Villaverde. Martin Walpoff.
Here.
Present. Out of 44. We have a quorum. Okay, we'll go on to the next item, number 9, the election of committee chairpersons. Are there any nominations from the floor for the position of housing chairperson? Maybe I nominate Rosemary Ginty for housing. Second, Ms. Sylvia. Okay, so do you accept? Yeah. So now is there a motion to close nomination? And motion Scott, Miriam. Second. Okay, so now we're gonna vote the motion to close nominations. Is that correct? Okay. Anyone abstaining? You oppose? No, I'm doing it my way. Is anyone abstaining? Anyone opposed? Anyone present but cannot vote? That means that all those in favor. Nice and simple. Thank you. Okay, now we have to vote for her, because that was just for the motion. Okay, so is anyone abstaining from voting for Rosemary?
Madam Chair, I move that one vote be cast.
Sounds good to me, but I can't say that. Second? Thank you. Anyone opposed? In favor? Okay. Any abstentions? It's unanimous, all in favor. Thank you. Congratulations, Rosemary, and thank you very much for stepping up. Why don't you just briefly, why don't you let the new people know a little bit about you, because those of us who know your background in housing, just a little snippet.
Okay.
So, because we have a lot of new people.
Okay, so, maybe just maybe background in the community board position, chair for 3 years and vice chair for 3 years, chair of the environment and sanitation committee, chair of the local methods committee, and the chair of the forest committee. I'm very happy. Very housing. Very important time for the subject. My background is master's in urban planning, and I spent a decade here with her. So, master of planning, I worked for the city for a number of years, worked for Patch. And was a practicing lawyer. I'm now retired, personally, so I have time. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, now we'll go on to environment and sanitation. nominations from the floor for the position of Environment and Sanitation? No. Okay. So we'll move on then to committee reports. Just a reminder, if we can stay at minimum 3 minutes, it is 8:30, and we'll just go on to committee reports, and we'll start off with land use.
Madam Chair, we have a meeting of land use scheduled for the 18th, I believe, this month. There are the following items among others on. The last meeting we had reports on 3 different SNAD advances.
One of them, at that point, had no objection to it, other than the fact that the
Front of the speaker. We can hear you.
other than the fact that they now seem to have some issues with the
Davis, who they had not notified in advance of the fact that they would make the So we'll see what happens. One of them doesn't have proposed direct ancillary dormitory without any connection to a sanitary sewer, which is not necessarily the prohibition. We'll see what happens on that at the next meeting. I will be in touch with the applicant. And the third one raises an issue, which could be an issue of consideration. There is a property located in a very sensitive place, right on the corner, next to the Whitehall, where all the traffic congestion occurs in the morning and evening workouts, where they propose to put in a school and a dormitory of some sort. The only problem is there's a restricted covenant. It says it can only be used for residents. The question is whether or not the board is prepared to enforce that. There are 2 other issues that I want to call to your attention. The first is that we are going to be getting very shortly a certification of my absence from city planning on the proposed zoning text change. This is not something that you can lightly look at or think about. If enacted in its terms, you can say goodbye to North Riverdale and all single family homes. The density that will be permitted will do single family homes. This was badly constructed. It was a copy of a program put together by the city of Jerusalem that was called the Tamar Project, in which it allowed people to build additional to their existing envelope of the house. Here they're going to allow another building in the backyard as long as it's affordable. And when they tell me what the definition of affordable housing is, I'll look here. But the fact is that that will be coming up at some point in the next few months. We're going to try and put together a task force of a few people who can look at it in depth to report, representing the viewpoints across the spectrum. So that we know where we're going. This is, in my view, the single most important issue. In the 30-odd years that I've heard, whether you're talking about the people in Kingsbridge who by their bootstraps have been able to put together the money, buy a home with a mortgage, and now have a decision to make as to whether or not they should even bother to stay in the city of New York. Kind of zoning that's silly, but that's my opinion. Others may disagree, and you will have to listen to all after we start. There, as I said, there were 2 issues. The next one is
Marty will report to you on a piece of it, in the subject of the task force for the past year and a half, 2 years, which is Riverdale Stag Building. And then before that, let me just, one of the speakers addressed the issue on Waldo Avenue involving right around the corner as to what is going to be, what is going to happen with Stag Building there. First, the rumor mill had it that this was going to be a homeless shelter based on the conversation we've had with the Stag people. That is the furthest thing at the moment from his mind, because he made a representation to Manhattan College that he was not going to go do that. So we are sure that so far that is on the horizon. The issue is the migrant shelter. These are families. They are going to be apartments for migrant families. I'm a migrant. I came in as a refugee. I was able to pull myself up. I was lucky. These people have every right to have the same kind of care that anyone else does. It's not the same thing as the whole trouble. Please don't believe it that way. It's different. These are people who want a home. They are families. And if this works out, I don't know if it will, and I don't know that they will do the necessary to ensure that they are proper residents, properly taken care of. But if it works out, I'm very, very serious about the benefits of providing that. Sure. Okay. Marty, what? If you're the bill, just briefly.
Hey, I'm just glad to see Chuck made it home safe. So
I want
we good set that shirt.
1 minute. We are notorious as a people in this city, state, much of this country, having a very short memory. What is on our mind and what we object to today, we forget about tomorrow in terms of the next ball game or the next crisis. This is going to take a while. I was there. I can show you right now the video taken by one of the survivors of the massacre of 260 young kids attending a music festival. It's on my cell phone. I can tell you that kids, babies have been found now in some of these schools where their heads were cut off. This is worse than anything you have ever heard. It's ISIS times 10. Don't forget it, because it's going to last a while before it's settled down. This is Iran at work. This is the sophistication. You know how they got in? They tied motors to their back and flew over the fences. They flew into the kibbutzim. They used all sorts of equipment, technical equipment these folks would never hope to get in that area. This is the beginning of a very, very serious problem. The world's got to pay attention. Don't lose patience.
Thank you, Chuck.
Shortly, by the end of the year, that building on Riverdale Avenue will be completed. I will have a report from the committee discussing the value it has been to work with STAG. I only hope that the next construction, there is responsive to the community as they have been with respect to David and I, and a member of the community, meeting with them monthly. And so, note to you is by January, be able to move in, hopefully. No, it's just. I will be as brief as possible. I have 3 items I want to raise. And if you have any questions, and there's time at the end, I'll be happy to answer. Otherwise, communicate with me directly, email, or any member of the committee. And all of this will be discussed at this Thursday night, this coming Thursday, LRE meeting. So if you have questions, bring it in or beforehand. First is OML. There's been some concern by some people that what's good for one chair is not necessarily good for another chair when it comes to implementation of EC or extraordinary circumstances to be able to participate via a hybrid process. The question is, should there be more stringent rules so that all chairs behave the same way? Or will somebody's sniffle be excused, my pneumonia won't be, and there should be some consistency? We'll look into that. I just want to add to this, the wrinkle has, it's something we're happy about, in fact, is when the OML came out, they had a clause about needing to observe and be concerned about the Americans with Disability Act. And when questioned, what does that mean? Give us some guidance. The Committee on Open Government says, we can't tell you anything, check elsewhere. Well, we checked, we looked, finally, a number of us attended the most recent Committee on Open Government Zoom conference on the open meetings law. This is my fourth one, and I keep hoping to hear something different, and do not until this time, when they surprised us to tell us that there's been an amendment to the open meetings law. Now, just lay it out for one. The wrinkle is that if someone is disabled, not only can they participate under the concept of extraordinary circumstances, but they can participate in addition to, they can count as part of the quorum. Like someone with EC cannot. They can vote and they can speak, but they're not part of the quorum. Someone who declared as being disabled can be counted as part of the quorum. We've asked for a definition of disabled. They put us to Executive Law Section 292, which is quite expansive. However, when asked at the Zoom, the answer was, if someone says they're disabled, they're disabled. I'm not quite sure how to find that, but it's the best I can do at the moment. Second item, conflicts of interest. I sent down to all board members a copy of the document put out by the Committee Conflict of Interest Board with respect to plain English language for community board members, so you don't have to personally pour through the city charter to know what you can and cannot do. This document advises you. I suggest you look at it. Most of it looks at pretty much you cannot abuse your office in any way, and we're treated for this concept as if we were employees of the city, and you have to be careful. And as I've noted before, at every LRE meeting I share documents we get from the conflict of interest. They give us what their decisions and outcomes are of investigations they have made, and we read these and we laugh. A cynical way of how could these people be so stupid as to have done some of these things. And I can name off the top of my head a couple, like a guy who works in the mortuary and takes bodies back to his funeral home so he can have private business from the bodies that are there, and some better ones. And we read about community board members who have violated conflict of interest. Finally, voting, there is a concern expressed to me that there has been the perception of some people that there has been an abuse of the right to abstain. Now, everyone here has the right to abstain on a vote. Just quickly, you can vote one of four ways. You can say yes, you can say no, and abstain. And you can abstain, we used to call it with cause, now it's called present ineligible to vote. That means you have a conflict of interest. If you, when the notice goes out of the agenda, the notice goes out these are the resolutions that will come up. I believe it's your responsibility to look at them and say, I got a problem with this, or I have a question about this, and you really should come somewhat educated on what that item is, so that your questions can be asked and answered. So, just as concerned, we have some major votes coming up in the near future, and we've had a couple of occasions, I can think one in May, where the abstentions won, and yeses and noes lost. But in the precedence concept, which I'll explain Thursday night to new members, but the precedence concept, we are bound by federal state law. So open meetings law takes precedence, as does the city charter, and then comes, it's in our bylaws to look to the Roberts rules. There are many, many cases where Roberts rules is overruled by the city charter. Something like the Roberts rule says 2/3 vote is required, supermajority. City charter says no, simple majority. So there are a number of occasions, and the question came up, and I did a little research on it, which I've shared with committee members, and we will discuss on Thursday night.
The one in the, you have to hit the red button at the bottom.
Is this working? All right. So I'm Deb Travis, I'm the chair of the Parks and Recreation Committee. I'm going to start with the good news, which was on September 20th, the International Cricket Council informed us that they will not be hosting the T20 Cricket World Cup in Vancouver Park. I want to just thank the New Yorkers for Parks, the Bronx Council for Environmental Quality, Bronx Coalition for Parks and Green Spaces, the New York Cricket League, Bronx Community Board 8, that's us, Loving the Bronx, New York Roadrunners, Riverdale Main Street Alliance, Van Cortlandt Park Track Club, Women of Woodlawn, Van Cortlandt Nature Group, and of course Van Cortlandt Park Alliance, along with Congressman Richie Torres, Assembly Member Jeff Denowitz, City Council Member Eric Denowitz, and New York City Council Council Member Shekar Krishna. All of these folks came out and just in support of maintaining public space and the doctrine of the public trust doctrine. So I think that the board itself, we never really ruled on whether we thought there should be a cricket stadium ever, but that doesn't mean that that the proposal should have gone through on its own. I think that it was good that they took the initiative and picked up a more suitable location for such a short time period. So we did encourage them, we reached out to them and encouraged them to support our cricket teams though, and cricket in Vancouver Park when the T20 is happening in 2024 through free clinics, through free tournaments, and through just working with Vancouver Park Alliance themselves to improve the cricket facilities in Vancouver Park. And then I just want to bring up the Brussels Park issue and try to kind of get folks up to speed on what's going on there. So I was informed just this afternoon that the developer of 55 Dash Place has paved a portion of a mapped unbuilt street that is directly adjacent to Brussels Park. If you don't know what Brussels Park is, it runs, it's on the corner of Manhattan College Parkway in Waldo. And this paved street is, or this this mapped unpaved street is West 242nd Street, or would be West 242nd Street if it had ever been built, which it had not. So it was approximately 15 feet of land that runs adjacent to the park. And the expectation is that when they built this new building, that they would restore the unmapped street itself, which is essentially unrecognizable from the park itself. It has some street infrastructure, but it's mostly just it's natural soil. And so about a year ago, 3875 Walden Cooperative, Save Russ Park, and Stewards of Russ Park, they reached out because they opposed the use of this paper street as a driveway, and they were concerned that it was going to be paved because they don't want buses and trucks and the kinds of heavy usage that comes from a school, which is what the base level of this building is going to be. And they were also concerned, I think rightfully so, that the intersection where this driveway comes out from, or where this paper street kind of meets Manhattan College Parkway, is a kind of a complicated intersection. It's 3 ways, it has a light, but it's also right next to Kelly Commons building for Manhattan College and the main campus entrance, and Russ Park, which has pedestrians coming and going from the park, and then folks coming and going from the cooperative itself. And so additionally, the street itself is, it's on that street, it's 15 feet wide, and when you park on it, there's just not a lot of room to maneuver, and the expectation is this is going to be a school, there's going to be a lot of people coming and going, and the cooperative was not informed that this paving was going to happen. The developer has really not been in touch with the cooperative about what they were intending to do with it, which was one of the issues we were having last year, is we were trying to investigate kind of what the situation was. Luke worked on this, he was a former coordinator, and when he investigated it, what he found was that the developer does not have an easement, that their property line does not extend this way, that the unpaved, unbuilt street is purely DOT property. And so today, when I was informed that the developer themselves had decided to pave it, it was seemingly it appears to be a land grab, that they're trying to get it paved so that they can use it, and that once they've started using it, that there's really no going back, and there's not a lot for the community to do. So I reached out to Chuck, honestly, because he's got much more experience in land use issues in terms of understanding what the rights of the developer are and what the expectations we should have for the developer are. And he recommended a resolution to bring a resolution to the floor tonight, just a very simple one, just to say that we're opposed to this paving. With some conditions. I put something together, which I would like to read to give you a sense of what the simplicity of it would be. Therefore be it resolved that Community Board 8 opposes the mapped but unbuilt portion of West 242nd Street between Dash Place and Waldo Avenue, adjacent to Russ Park, being paved until appropriate measures have been enacted to ensure its exclusive use as a walkway, except where emergency access is mandated by the City of New York. I add that last part because there's this kind of handmade sign that says it's supposed to be kept open for emergency use. So we don't really understand who put that there or why that's there. But we want to know. We would like to have the developer, the stewards of Russ Park, and all of the stakeholders, DOT, parks, and the school come to the next Parks Committee meeting so that we can actually have a full discussion of what the needs are of this particular driveway, and if we can use it equitably as a walkway. Here's a picture of it for those who are not familiar with it. This is what it looks like now. Yesterday it was just kind of a sandy rocky area with some grass and some weeds, and a little bit of concrete pad right at the front. So they paved the whole darn thing. So now I want to go get a car and park there. It's so nice looking. Do I have, I guess I would need to make a motion to amend the agenda to have a vote for the resolution.
So moved.
Is there a second? And so then I would like to move that we pass this resolution. Is there any, oh wait, we vote on it. That's.
Let's vote. Yes?
Yeah.
Appropriate city agency, this was found to be inappropriate. Should not have done so. What was the appropriate city agency to regulate this? I wonder if it's possible to just so they can get started. Possible.
Well,
I mean, it's not crucial, I just.
yeah.
So, all ideas to investigate it. It's okay, sorry.
So at this point, do we go on to vote?
Let me just tell you two things. This has error. We went through all of this stuff when the construction of the building was contemplated at the beginning. And it was sent to land use worked on these. That was an issue at the time. What was going to happen with that essentially after was intended in major part to be available for the existing house, apartment house next door, as a Waldo address. And the people in the back, the developer, timber, needed that because under the general city law, the expert on all of the zoning stuff is the chair about it. General city law provides that in order to build any such apartment house, you must have access to a public street. Access can be provided by a rough pathway or the like. It doesn't have to be paved. And their excuse is going to be, we need this for access. And our CO therefore lets us have. That's nonsense. This is the same nice people who gave us a problem with the Villa Rosa. So this is not anything new. I second that resolution. First two, if you quickly do a vote for the record, to open the agenda for the purposes of the second of this actual merits.
Is anyone opposed to the agenda being changed to act this resolution? Is anyone abstaining? So, okay, I'll now vote on the resolution.
Could you reread the be it resolved? Please.
So therefore be it resolved, Community Board 8 opposes the mapped but unbuilt portion of West 242nd Street between Dash Place and Waldo Avenue adjacent to Brush Park being paved until appropriate measures have been enacted to ensure its exclusive use as a walkway, except where emergency access is mandated by the City of New York, and we call on the Department of Transportation to investigate the situation.
The leverage down the road that you have to enforce it is this is trespass by the developer by building on the land. He's using the city's property for his own personal benefit. If he screws around, I'll have to sue.
Josh.
Oh, it's owned by DOT, it's a street. Yeah, it's a street. It's a city unbuilt mapped street, yeah. Yeah, I will also add that there's construction, additionally we have photos of construction debris that has been pushed from the construction site into the forested parts of Grosse Park just recently in the last few weeks, and that there's been severe runoff from the rest of the unbuilt street, that we expect them to restore.
I make a motion to vote on the resolution.
Yeah, is there any other questions?
All opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And my next meeting is, and where we will be discussing this will be Wednesday, October 25th.
Thank you, because I know you put that together in an afternoon. Okay. Okay, the next youth is Julia. She's on Zoom.
About public safety and CMT.
Oh, public safety. Yes, yes. I'm so sorry. We have like 11 resolutions. for public safety. Maybe that's why. Okay, sorry, Julia. We're gonna go to Ed Green for public safety.
Okay, so I'm good without the mic, everybody can hear me fine, right? All right, so public safety, our public safety committee had 6 resolutions. They're all renewal applications, SLAs. And one is for Chipotle Mexican Grill, number 2309 at 193 West 237th Street. The other is for Malacon Restaurant, 5592-5594 Broadway. Riverdale Gourmet, 3543 Riverdale Avenue. Ayush Sushi, 3532A Johnson Avenue. Leche Meal Restaurant, 5761 Broadway, and Kaye Bar and Grill at 3638 Bailey Avenue. The 50th precinct stated they were unaware of any prior notable disturbances or complaints at any of these locations. And the Public Safety Committee unanimously approved all these applications. I would like to take a vote on all of them as a block, unless anybody has an objection. Call the question. Have a vote on this? Okay, are there any, I thought you called this actually. Am I doing this?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Any abstentions? Any opposed? All approved then. Thank you.
So those were our 6 resolutions. I do have a couple of resolutions I want to bring from the floor for a vote. Do we have, well, let me just give you a little background. So the first one is for an event called Hiketoberfest. It's the Bronx Beer Hall, which is not an area beer hall. They're over on Arthur Avenue, but they are sponsoring this event, Hiketoberfest. And I'm just gonna, rather than get into a whole explanation about it, I'm just gonna read the resolution. It's a little lengthy. Okay, so it's for beer, wine, and cider. It's a temporary off-site permit. Whereas the liquor license of the Bronx Beer Hall, located at 2344 Arthur Avenue, Bronx, New York, 10458, has exceeded the allowed 4 temporary beer, wine, and cider permits per calendar year to act off-site. And whereas an oncoming Hiketoberfest event to be held on Saturday, October 21st, 2023, on the grounds of the Van Cortlandt House Museum in Van Cortlandt Park in the Bronx, New York, from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And whereas the Hiketoberfest event will be hosted by the Van Cortlandt Park Alliance, a 501c3 nonprofit, and whereas this is an annual fundraising event enjoyed by the community for the past 8 years to raise funding for Van Cortlandt Park Alliance's educational stewardship and cultural programs, and whereas the local New York City Police Department 50th Precinct Commanding Officer Captain Ryan Pierce supports the event, submitting a letter of support. The New York City Police Department 50th Precinct stated they were unaware of any prior notable disturbances or complaints at this establishment, and supports the annual event and the vendors. And whereas the chairpersons of the Parks and Recreation and the Public Safety Committees co-signed a letter of support along with the Community Board's chairperson prior to the board resolution. And whereas an immediate full board vote was taken in support of the Hiketoberfest event posted right Bronx Beer Hall, applicant New York State license number TP 82-23-08294 and Van Cortlandt Park Alliance 501c3 nonprofit. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Bronx Community Board 8 approves this application for a beer, wine, and cider temporary off-site permit, New York State license TP 8-23-082. That's it.
Second.
Okay, do we have any abstentions or anyone opposed to this resolution? Says it unanimous. Okay, so that being stated, the Public Safety Committee, well, this is a resolution being brought from the floor also. It's for an SLA, and I'll read it. It's a very short one. It's a renewal application for liquor, wine, beer, and cider. And whereas the liquor license of Palace of Japan, located at 3505 Johnson Avenue, is set to expire on October 31st, 2023. And whereas the Public Safety Committee is scheduled to meet on October 17th, 2023, and the following full board meeting will not be scheduled to meet until November. And whereas representatives of NYPD's 50th precinct stated they were unaware of any prior notable disturbances or complaints at the location of this establishment. Now therefore be it resolved, Bronx Community Board 8 approves this application. You have any abstentions or anyone? Oh, so.
Second.
Okay. So we have any abstentions or anyone opposing this application? Okay, I want to say one more thing about, so first of all, public safety meeting next Tuesday, 7 o'clock, 17th. We're going to have, again, the first legal cannabis application coming through the Office of Cannabis Management for us. I think I stood up here last month and said the exact same thing, but it was a false alarm because they withdrew the application for whatever reasons, but this one looks like it's gonna definitely go through. We heard from one resident earlier in the gallery session. They were opposed to it. I would just say, you know, people from the community, this is your chance to come out and speak for or against whatever you feel about this business. This is for real. They're going to be applying for a business and they're going to be coming to our committee. So if anybody, people need to come out. This is your opportunity to speak about it. And you heard also Senator Rivera speak about this earlier, and I'm sure we'll get contact with his office regarding this matter. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Constance.
Don't you speak, Julie? Don't you?
Kelly, can you unmute yourself, please? And after Kelly, then Julia, you're after her.
I'm here, finally. Thank you. I couldn't unmute. I will be very brief. The next TNT meeting is scheduled for October 19th. I also refer everyone to the TNT minutes, or you can review the YouTube recording. There was a matter presented at the TNT meeting regarding and I'm saying this in the interest of full disclosure, regarding the street renaming for Mr. James Packus at the intersection of West 230th Street and Tibbet Avenue. We have asked for additional letters from the community because we did not receive that information. We also asked that the family be contacted to ensure that we have family buy-in on this request to honor Mr. Pakis. And once we have that information, we will then present the resolutions to the full board for approval. I also note that the guidelines stipulate that the honoree must be deceased at least 2 years from the date of approval. And Mr. Pakis passed in December of 2021. So technically this matter is not ripe for presentation. Therefore, we have enough time to get this information and bring it back to the full board for resolution, and look forward to everyone's input at that time. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Kelly. On to you, Julia.
Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. For you to my minutes, my meeting's Monday at the board office. Come hang out with us. Have a good evening.
She can't unmute herself. Julia. We're hearing you, Julia.
She said.
She finished her report.
Yes.
Thank you, Julia. Okay, next is aging.
Yes.
Oscar.
I'll be very brief. This is probably the last time I'll be at I am. And the first thing is there's a public hearing, the U.S. Department of Aging on Thursday, the 12th, from 10 to 12, well, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Bronx House Winberg Adult Center, Old Adult Center, 990 Penn Parkway South, Bronx, New York, 10461. And then our committee meeting is that same Thursday, the 12th at 4 p.m. at
Thank you, Oscar. You go into budget. David.
Yes. As you know, we are in fiscal year 2024. Starts July 1st, ends June 30th, and in preparation for the submissions to OMB for our fiscal year 2025 budget priorities request, we conducted a hearing earlier tonight before some of you showed up, and took comments from the community about the budget priorities. And with that, I'd like to present a resolution to the board for approval. And so from the Budget Committee on October 10th. Whereas the operating committees of Bronx Community Board 8 met, discussed, and prioritized their respective fiscal year 2025 capital expense budget requests throughout the spring of 2023. And whereas the Budget Committee met and reviewed all of the committee requests submitted, placing them into separate overall capital expense budget request lists on behalf of all Bronx Community Board 8 committees. And whereas the Budget Chair conducted a public hearing on October 10th, 2023, offering community members the opportunity to comment on these prioritized budget requests. Now, therefore, be resolved that Bronx Community Board 8 approves the finalized fiscal year 2025 capital expense budget priorities. I want to present that, but actually there was one modification that, I'm sorry, I should have said it before. One modification that came up last week. As it turns out, the City Council approved opening libraries 6 days a week, which was one of the top priorities we had in our expense budget requests. And so we'd like to drop that and substitute a relevant, coming up, I'm trying to find my copy. A very topical and timely substitute for that item, also coming from the Education Committee. Let's see if I can find my copy of it. Have it? What, opening? sorry, we're just waiting for it to upload.
Well, you could say it because Sylvia's in here, so.
You have to work. Okay.
So. Just read it out loud. Oh, you have it there? Sylvia has it. Somebody.
Yeah, let me, thank you. Thank you, Rosemary.
Thank you.
Okay, so coming from the Education, Libraries and Cultural Affairs Committee, a proposal, a budget request to enable local library branches to address the current asylum seeker crisis, including welcome kits to children and families during outreach events, in-person ESOL classes to help with immigration services and improve the immigrants' language skills and connect with the community. Normally, we don't really take on changes at the 11th hour, but given the circumstances that basically this is something that hasn't been confronting New York City in a century, and it's quite timely. I recommend that we enable the substitution for the number 2 expense priority of 6 days library service, because it's already been funded by City Council. And I think that this would be an appropriate and timely substitution. And with that, I would move my resolution for the priorities that were distributed to the community, presented on our website, discussed by members of the community beforehand, before the meeting tonight at the hearing, and I ask for a vote on this.
I'll second it, since it's basically something, a new resolution.
Okay, thank you. So, all in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, David.
Sorry?
Economic development. Okay, Nick wants to name it. Next, okay, we'll go on to the Nick will come back. Education, Sylvia?
Meeting, education, school. At Van Portland, hotel. So it's going to be a primary school, but to have approximately 547 square feet of property. We have 3 lots. And very excited that finally they're building schools in our area. So projected to be finished in 2028. And they have projected that we would have more children at that point, because there's development going on in the community, and therefore they're bringing in more children. Just to mention that the education site is going to be a school in addition to the housing, and that's going to have over 800 children. So we're developing a lot of schools, something that we haven't done, and I've been the chair of the committee 15 years, and we've never had a new school before. So I'm very excited.
Thank you, Sylvia. We'll go back to economic, Nick. Economic development. Right there, it's up to you.
They can hear me. Give me 1 second. Bistro for a minute shortly. Want to thank the owners and management of Bistro for hosting us. The committee is reviewing the 18 proposed text amendments related to commercial and manufacturing zoning and uses as part of the city of Yes. Chuck and I will hopefully be meeting within the next couple of days. Our respective committees are reviewing those text amendments, and we'll find a path forward to have a constructive discussion on those. Whether that's a joint meeting or something else, we'll figure that out. Sarah and I will be meeting with EFS, and I think I'm not sure if you're joining us as well, Department of Financial Services for the state of New York. I think it's on Thursday, to discuss economic development and demographic trends here in the district. This is related to the banking development district designation, which we obtained in 2021. This is part of their regular audit process, whereby they determine if the subsidy is still needed. Of course, my presentation will suggest that it is definitely still needed. And then we have scheduled our first commercial corridor walkthrough on Friday, November 3rd. We will visit businesses along Johnson Avenue and Riverdale Avenue commercial corridor. And we've invited the SBS's Business Express Service team and the Bribes of the Attorney's Office to join us. And any community board members are welcome.
Yeah, I have a question. I didn't realize that there wasn't going to be a recording of your last meeting. Can you give us 45 seconds on what they told you about the Kingsbridge Armory? Which is a pretty serious.
That presentation was by the Northwest Bronx Community Encouragement Coalition. I encourage you to go to their website. They have a vision plan. That vision plan isn't necessarily what's reflected in the RFP. There's some discrepancies, but there is something that was in the RFP. I don't know exactly what they were offhand, but that presentation is on their website. It's lengthy, it's very interesting, and I encourage everyone to take a look at it. Any questions? Thank you.
We will go to environment and sanitation. I'll just make a note that there will be a meeting next month for environment and sanitation, tentatively for November 15th. Is it? Do you want to unmute Bob? There's going to be a lot of inquiries, so. We're going to ask you to
Ask
unmute.
Bob to unmute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm so sorry not to be with you today. I'm observing a COVID quarantine. It happened again, so I hope you're all well. Like the chair mentioned, ENS will be meeting next Wednesday. Agenda has been sent to the office. You should be getting it momentarily. And we'd particularly like to welcome new members to our committee, and we look forward to getting to know you. As well as we'd like to hear your experiences with flooding from the storm of September 29th, which took everyone by surprise. So your input is really appreciated, and we anticipate a great next year of ENS. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Bob. We'll go to the next committee, Health and Hospital. This is Vice Chair. Okay, the next one is housing.
The Housing Committee will meet Monday, October 23rd, 7 p.m. in our office. It will be our initial meeting, not only for me, but for the committee members too, so I look forward to it. Thank you.
The next special committee on, yes?
You should say just that the health hospitals and social services committee meeting is scheduled for tomorrow, 7 p.m.
Thanks. Special committee on Hudson River appraisals. The vice chair on the Greenway. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Special committee on racial equity.
We had a little hiccup in our meeting plans this last week, so it will be rescheduled.
Thank you much. Special committee on veteran services.
Good evening, everyone. We are meeting on October 30th, hopefully at Kingswood Social. I promise by tomorrow we'll know. So we'll get it out of time. Try not to have it at the office, but it may end up at the office. November 5th is the Memorial Grove event. It's a Veterans Day event that happens every year. It's a very nice event at noon. I invite all of our board members and your families to come out. It's a very, very nice event. It's at 242nd event hall across from Ferguson. It's an annual event. We have been invited to march as a community board at the Bronx Veterans Day Parade on November 12th. If we get a group together, I think we should do it. So if anyone's interested, come see me, because our participation will be dependent on it not just being one person carrying that. Thank you. Yes. Parade, it's the one that's East Tremont. It starts at East Tremont on Lafayette Avenue. If you guys, that's that Veterans Day. Yes, Steve.
And I would note that the Veterans Day event at the Memorial Grove, you get to see our vice chair even spiffier looking than he is normally.
Sometimes I go.
Thank you. A discussion on executive committee meetings of September 6th, 2023. Does anyone have any comments? Yes.
Are you asking about the minutes? I didn't see the minutes.
For the executive committee meeting? Yeah. Well, you were there, you weren't there, you were at the October exec? No? The October exec? Okay, so take a look at your email, we'll re-email it to you, so you went out, and it's just discussions, we're not voting on anything, since the committee already voted in October for the exec. But double check, if you don't get it, we'll have.
You're talking about the minutes of the October meeting?
No,
Oh,
September, September executive. Come on, okay, thank you, Stephen. Okay, so no questions on the exec. So now we're going to go for the approval of the board minutes. First, I'm going to do this approval of the board minutes for September 12th, 2023. Everyone received a copy of that. For the September 12th, the board minutes. No, I said September board minutes. Yes.
There was just a reference to committee members absent, approved, present, and I think it was should have referred to board members, since it's a board meeting, not a committee meeting. That's on the first.
Okay, the minutes was September 12th. Okay, so we are. Any other corrections?
Yeah. Move the minutes as corrected. Second.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, sir. So, does anyone oppose for the September 12th, 2023 minutes? Abstentions? The all approved with the correction. Okay, now we're going to do the July 20th, 2023 special meeting. Everyone received the minutes that we were going to go over last month, and the one correction that was needed at the time was the post, tally of the votes on the last page. that meeting, the members' names should have been put on the minutes, they were not. We looked at the video too many times, so. And we sent out, the board sent out an email to all the board members, and the new people you weren't there, so you understand you can respond. But for those who were present at the meeting, if you have not responded to the email, you need to tell us now how you voted. Deb went to put a resolution. Chuck? He made a motion to table Deb's resolution. It was seconded by Julia. And then 11 people in the room voted to table the resolution. And 3 people on Zoom, Chris, myself, and Lee Chung, voted to table it. 5 people opposed. So is anyone here who was at that meeting inside the office? Because we looked at the Zoom and I'm not looking at it anymore. And we all looked at it. If you could figure it out, fine. So right here, if you approve Chuck's tabling the motion, raise your hand. I have Sergio and Nick. I have Chuck in favor. Laura, you were in favor of tabling it? Dina, you gave us a chance. You were opposed to that. I said some people, the people know who didn't respond, they're answering. So Laura did respond. I responded. Yeah, so we. You voted to approve the first one? To table it. To table. And David Gelman, you tabled it. And there will be some names on there, some people say that are not there, we're gonna have to live with it. Okay? And then opposed, we had Deb opposed, not tabling the resolution. Anyone else opposed? Well, it's been like great. To oppose. The next one. I know, that's why I said it's gonna be what it is, and that's it. I was not in that room, thankfully. Okay, the second motion. Right, then to adjourn. The last one was a motion to adjourn. For the July meeting.
I know, I still want to say that.
Okay, so the motion to adjourn the July meeting, that one was a close one too. Deb, you opposed it to adjourn. Bob Bender opposed, Deb opposed, and Laura, you opposed. Did anyone else oppose to adjourn that meeting? Okay, so then whoever we can hear in that video, we will put in, and the rest of you, everyone learned from that meeting. So I move to put in the minutes as is, and whoever opposes, I will give you this, and you can look at the video and you can figure it out. Okay. So, anyone oppose the minutes? Amended as is? Anyone abstain? And anyone approve to take it? Thank you. Any? All business usual? Motion to adjourn.